Listen carefully because this moment is not ordinary. There are thousands of voices in the world right now. Endless scrolling, endless noise, endless distractions pulling your attention in every direction. And yet, out of all the messages you could have seen, out of all the words you could have heard, you landed here. Not slujadikaki. A coincidence. Not chance. This is a divine interruption. Archangel Michael speaks in this moment, not softly, not passively, but with urgency that pierces through the noise of your everyday life. He calls to you, not as a stranger, but as one who has been watching your path, your struggles, your silent questions that you never voiced out loud. You felt something lately, haven't you? A shift. Something subtle but undeniable. Maybe it started as a small discomfort you couldn't explain. A strange pause in conversations. A feeling that someone's energy around you has changed, but you brushed it off. You told yourself, maybe I'm overthinking. You tried to ignore it, to keep peace, to move forward like everything is normal. But deep down something didn't sit right. That feeling, that was not fear. That was not anxiety. That was discernment. And right now, Archangel Michael is stepping forward to confirm what your spirit has already been trying to tell you. This message found you because heaven saw you questioning your own intuition. Heaven saw you second-guessing what you felt. Heaven saw you trying to silence your inner voice just to maintain comfort with those around you. But this is the moment where silence breaks. This is the moment where truth begins to rise. Because something is unfolding behind the scenes, and you were never meant to stay unaware of it. Think about the last few days or even weeks. Have you noticed how certain people started acting just a little differently? Not enough to confront them. Not enough to prove anything. But just enough to make you pause. A delayed response. A forced smile. A tone that didn't match their words. Moments where you felt like you were being watched, studied, even subtly judged. And you tried to ignore it. You tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Because you are not someone who jumps to conclusions. You are not someone who wants conflict. You are someone who values trust, loyalty, and peace. But what happens when peace is being used against you? What happens when your kindness becomes a blindfold? Archangel Michael says this clearly. You were not wrong. Let that settle in your spirit. You were not wrong to feel that shift. You were not wrong to question that energy. You were not wrong to sense that something is hidden beneath the surface. Because while you were trying to maintain harmony, something unseen was beginning to move. And now, the timing has changed. June 5th is not just another day on the calendar. It is a spiritual checkpoint, a moment where what was hidden begins to surface, where what was whispered begins to echo, where what was concealed can no longer stay buried. And that is why you are hearing this now. Not later, not after the damage is done, but now before everything reveals itself. Archangel Michael is not here to create fear. He is here to create awareness. He is here to protect you from what you cannot yet fully see. He is here to awaken your vision before the situation unfolds any further. Because once you see clearly, everything changes. Your decisions change. Your boundaries change. Your direction changes. And most importantly, your protection strengthens. So listen closer, because this is only the beginning. What you are about to uncover will explain everything you've been feeling. And once you understand it, you will never look at certain people the same way again. This is your moment of awakening. This is your divine alert. And you were chosen to hear it right now. Type "I am aware" in the comments if you feel this message is meant for you. Blessing code 1111 is now activated. There are dates that pass like ordinary footsteps in time, and then there are dates that arrive carrying weight, carrying meaning, carrying a shift that cannot be seen with the natural eye but can be felt deep within the spirit. June 5th is not just another day that will come and go. It is not random. It is not empty. It is marked. And the moment a day becomes marked in the spiritual realm, it begins to carry an assignment. Archangel Michael speaks with clarity in this hour, saying that June 5th is a threshold, a crossing point, a moment where the unseen begins to press into the scene. You may wake up that day thinking it is like any other, going through your routine, speaking to the same people, walking through the same environments. But beneath the surface, something will be different. The atmosphere will shift in ways that you cannot immediately explain, yet your spirit will recognize it instantly. You have felt days like this before, haven't you? Days where something feels off but you cannot name it. Days where conversations feel heavier, where silence feels louder, where your intuition becomes sharper without warning. That is because certain days carry spiritual activity that overrides the ordinary flow of life. And June 5th is one of those days. Archangel Michael reveals that this date has been building quietly. Not suddenly, not overnight, but through a series of unseen movements that have been aligning for this exact moment. Every strange feeling you had, every moment of hesitation, every unexplainable shift in someone's behavior, these were not isolated incidents. They were pieces of a larger pattern, slowly coming together, preparing for what is about to surface. This is why the message comes now, before the day arrives. Because once June 5th begins, the unfolding will move quickly. There will be little time to question, little time to second guess, little time to ignore what your spirit is revealing to you. The clarity that has been delayed will begin to break through, and with that clarity will come decisions you cannot avoid. Michael says this is a day of exposure, but not in a way meant to harm you. It is exposure meant to protect you. What has been hidden near you, quietly, subtly, patiently, will no longer be able to remain concealed. The energy you have been sensing without proof will begin to show itself through actions, words, or even silence. And when it happens, it will feel both shocking and familiar at the same time, because a part of you already knew. That is the mystery of divine timing. Heaven does not reveal everything at once. It allows your spirit to sense before your eyes can see, so that when the truth finally appears, you are not completely unprepared. You are awakened. You are ready. You are aligned. June 5th is also a moment of testing. Not a test of your strength, but a test of your awareness. Will you trust what you feel, or will you dismiss it again? Will you honor your discernment, or will you silence it to keep others comfortable? This is where many lose their clarity, by choosing comfort over truth. But Archangel Michael is urging you now, do not repeat that pattern. Because this day is not only about what is being revealed around you, it is also about what is being activated within you. Your discernment is rising. Your perception is sharpening. Your spiritual awareness is being elevated to a level where you can no longer ignore what does not align with your peace. And that is not slucha. That is preparation. You are being prepared to see clearly, to act wisely, and to protect what is yours before it is compromised any further. The weight of this state is not meant to scare you. It is meant to position you. It is meant to place you one step ahead of what is trying to unfold behind your back. Michael makes it clear. This is a window. A narrow, sacred window where truth will pass through quickly. If you are alert, you will catch it. If you are distracted, you may miss it. And missing it does not mean destruction, but it does mean delay. delay in clarity, delay in protection, delay in stepping fully into what heaven hath been trying to give you. So as June 5th approaches, you must become stilled within. Not fearful, not anxious, but aware. Watch the shifts. Listen to the tone behind the words. Observe what feels forced, what feels unnatural, what feels out of alignment. Your spirit will guide you, but only if you allow yourself to listen. Because this is not just a date. This is a turning point. A moment where hidden intentions begin to rise to the surface, where truth begins to separate itself from illusion, where you are given the opportunity to see what was once hidden in plain sight. And when that moment comes, everything you felt before will finally make sense. Type "I trust divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now activated. There is something you need to understand right now, and it may not be easy to accept. But your spirit has already been preparing you for this truth. Not everyone who stands near you stands with you. Not everyone who speaks kindly to you carries clean intentions toward you. And not everyone who smiles in your presence celebrates your growth when you are not looking. Archangel Michael steps forward in this moment with a message that is not meant to confuse you, but to clarify what you have been sensing deep within. He reveals that someone close to you, someone familiar, someone you have allowed into your personal space, your conversations, your energy, is not aligned with your well-being. Your presence may appear harmless on the surface, but beneath that surface, something else had been forming quietly. This is not about dramatic betrayal that announces itself loudly. This is not obvious deception that can be easily pointed out. This is subtle. This is quiet. This is the kind of misalignment that hides behind normal behavior, making it difficult to confront and easy to dismiss. That is why it has gone unnoticed for so long. Not because you are unaware, but because it was never meant to be obvious, until now. Think about the way this person interacts with you. There have been moments where something felt slightly off, but you could not explain it. Moments where their words sounded supportive, but their tone carried something different. Moments where they asked questions that felt normal, yet left you feeling strangely exposed afterward. These are not coincidences. These are clues. Archangel Michael says that this individual has been observing you more closely than you realize. Not with admiration, not with genuine care, but with a quiet curiosity tied to intention. They have been studying your patterns, your habits, your decisions, even your vulnerabilities. And the reason is not to uplift you. It is to understand how to position themselves in relation to what you carry. Because you carry something valuable. You carry growth, direction, potential, and a path that is opening in ways that not everyone around you can access. And when someone who is not aligned with your path gets close enough to observe it, they begin to measure it, not to celebrate it, but to see how it can benefit them. This is where the hidden intention begins. It is not always about direct harm. Sometimes it is about subtle interference. A word placed at the right moment to create doubt. A suggestion that seems harmless but shifts your direction slightly off course. A reaction that minimizes your progress just enough to make you question your own momentum. These actions do not look dangerous individually, but over time, they create impact. And this person knows exactly how to remain within your circle without raising suspicion. They understand your nature. They understand your desire to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to give people the benefit of the doubt. And they rely on that. They rely on your silence. They rely on your willingness to overlook what feels uncomfortable. But Archangel Michael says the time for overlooking has ended. Because what is hidden is beginning to surface. You may notice it in the way they respond to your success. not openly negative, but not fully supportive either. You may notice it in how they react when you set boundaries. A subtle resistance, a shift in tone, a change in energy that feels different from before. You may even notice it in how they speak about others, because the way someone speaks about others often reveals how they think, even if they do not speak that way to your face. This is how the truth begins to reveal itself, not in one dramatic moment, but in small, undeniable patterns that your spirit can no longer ignore. And as this realization unfolds, you may feel a mixture of emotions: confusion, disappointment, even a sense of disbelief. Because this is someone you trusted, someone you did not expect to question. But understand this: recognizing the truth does not mean you were wrong to trust. It means you have grown enough to see what was once hidden. Archangel Michael is not revealing this to create distance out of fear. He is revealing it to create awareness that leads to protection. Because once you become aware, you cannot be manipulated in the same way. Once you see clearly, you cannot be guided subtly off your path without noticing. This is your advantage. This is your moment of clarity. And this is where your response becomes important. You do not need to confront immediately. You do not need to react emotionally. What you need is observation, stillness, awareness. Let their actions reveal what their words attempt to hide. Let time expose what patience uncovers. Because the truth does not need to be forced. It reveals itself when you are ready to see it. And now, you are ready. Type ISE clearly in the comments if this message resonates with you. Lesson code 3333 is now activated. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand something deeper. This message is not just reaching you. It is meant to reach countless others who are still walking in confusion, still silencing their discernment, still unaware of what heaven is trying to reveal. Every time you choose to support this mission, you are not helping a channel. You are helping light break through darkness in someone else's life. The word declares that when you sow into good ground, your harvest multiplies beyond what you can see. And right now, this is fertile ground for awakening souls. I feel led to say this clearly. I am stepping into alignment by supporting what sets others free. Your giving becomes a seed of clarity planted into lives that desperately need truth. This is not just generosity. It is obedience in motion. And heaven responds to obedience with open doors. Those who give into this moment will see unexpected favor, because you are partnering with a divine assignment. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code is right before you. Do not delay what your spirit is prompting you to do. Step into this act now and watch how God moves in your life. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey where what you once ignored becomes impossible to overlook. A moment where the quiet signals you brushed aside begin to speak louder than logic, louder than comfort, louder than the explanations you created to keep everything feeling normal. This is that moment for you. This is where your discernment is no longer whispering. It is rising. Archangel Michael is revealing something crucial now. The signs were never absent. They were present all along, woven into your daily interactions, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment you were ready to truly see them. What felt like small, disconnected feelings were actually part of a consistent pattern your spirit recognized long before your mind could make sense of it. You remember those moments, don't you? That slight hesitation before responding to a message. That pause before trusting a certain person's words. That inner nudge telling you to hold back, even when everything on the surface seemed fine. These were not random thoughts. These were not overreactions. These were signals, clear, intentional signals from your inner discernment, trying to guide you. What you did what many do. You questioned yourself. You told yourself you were overthinking. You told yourself to stay calm, to not assume the worst, to not disrupt the peace. You chose to trust appearances over intuition, because trusting intuition often requires action, and action can create discomfort. But now, Archangel Michael says the season of dismissal has ended, because the same signs you once ignored are now becoming clearer, stronger, and impossible to silence. Look back carefully. There were conversations where something did not align. Words were spoken, but the energy behind them felt different. Compliments that felt empty. Encouragement that lacked sincerity. Support that appeared conditional. These were not isolated moments, they were indicators. There were also emotional shifts that came without clear cause. Moments where your energy suddenly dropped after interacting with a specific person. Moments where you felt drained, unsettled, or slightly anxious without understanding why. That was not demonetized. That was your spirit reacting to misalignment before your mind could define it. Archangel Michael explains that discernment often speaks through feeling before it speaks through understanding. It is not always logical. It is not always immediate. But it is always accurate when you allow it to guide you. There were also signs in timing. Notice how certain interruptions appeared at critical moments in your life. Times when you were gaining clarity, moving forward, building something meaningful, only to encounter unexpected distraction, doubt, or delay shortly after certain interactions. This was not coincidence. This was interference operating subtly, using access that was already within your circle. And still, you gave grace. You extended understanding. You chose patience. Because that is who you are. But there is a difference between grace and blindness. There is a difference between patience and tolerance of misalignment. And this is where your awakening begins. Because now, your discernment is no longer asking for permission. It is asserting itself. You may notice it becoming stronger in the coming hours and days. You may feel more sensitive to tone, more aware of inconsistency, more alert to what feels genuine and what feels forced. This is not you becoming guarded in fear. This is you becoming aligned with truth. Archangel Michael says this is a necessary activation, because what is about to unfold requires you to see clearly without hesitation. No more explaining away discomfort. No more silencing your inner voice. No more ignoring what does not feel right. This is where your awareness becomes your protection. This is where your clarity becomes your strength. And understand this deeply. Recognizing these signs does not make you negative. It does not make you suspicious. It makes you aware. It places you in a position where you can move with intention instead of reaction. There is also something else happening within you right now. A shift in how you process information. Where you once relied only on what you could see and hear, you are now beginning to trust what you feel. And that is a higher level of perception. A level that allows you to navigate situations before they fully reveal themselves. This is not demonetized. This is preparation. Because once the truth begins to unfold, it will not come with warning, it will come with confirmation. And when that confirmation arrives, you will remember these moments. You will remember the signs. You will realize that nothing you felt was without reason. Archangel Michael wants you to stand firm in this realization. Not with fear, not with anger, but with clarity. Because clarity removes confusion. Clarity removes doubt. Clarity allows you to act without hesitation when the moment arrives. And that moment is closer than you think. So stay aware. Stay present. Stay connected to what your spirit is showing you. because the signs you once ignored are now guiding you toward truth. And this time, you will not miss them. Type "I trust my discernment" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 4444 is now activated. There's a truth that is difficult to accept, yet necessary for your protection. And that truth is this: deception rarely arrives as something obvious. It does not knock on your door announcing itself as danger. It does not reveal its intentions clearly from the beginning. Instead, it blends in. It adapts. It wears a face that feels familiar, safe, even trustworthy. And that is why it is able to remain close for as long as it does. Archangel Michael speaks with precision in this moment, revealing that the greatest vulnerability is not created by strangers. It is created by familiarity. Because when someone becomes familiar to you, you lower your guard naturally. You allow access. You allow conversation. You allow influence. And over time, that access becomes a pathway, not always for harm, but for presence. And when presence is established, intentions can remain hidden much longer. Think about how this happens. A person does not enter your life showing resistance or misalignment immediately. They enter with connection, with shared moments, with words that resonate, with actions that seem supportive. They build trust slowly, consistently, until you no longer question their place in your life. And once that trust is established, it becomes the very reason their actions go unexamined. This is the mask of familiarity. It is not false kindness in an obvious sense. It is selective authenticity. It is showing just enough truth to maintain your confidence, while withholding what would reveal their full intention. It is a balance they maintain carefully, so that you continue to see them through the lens of who they appeared to be in the beginning. Archangel Michael reveals that this is exactly what has been happening around you. The person he has shown you is not acting out of open hostility. That would be easier to identify. Instead, they operate within the space of normalcy. They remain present in your life, speaking, interacting, observing, while carrying an internal intention that is not aligned with your growth. This is why confusion arises. Because their actions do not fully match your expectations, but they do not fully contradict them either. They remain in between, never fully supportive, never fully distant. Just close enough to stay relevant, just neutral enough to avoid suspicion. But neutrality, in this context, is not harmless. Because neutrality allows influence without accountability. It allows someone to remain close enough to affect your direction, your mindset, your decisions, without ever appearing responsible for the impact they create. And over time, that influence begins to shape things in ways that are not immediately visible. Archangel Michael says that familiarity is the shield behind which this influence operates. You remember who they were when you first trusted them. You remember the connection, the shared understanding, the moments that felt genuine. And because of those memories, you continue to extend trust, even when your present experience no longer fully aligns with the past. This is where many remain stuck. They hold on to who someone was instead of recognizing who they have become. And in doing so, they allow the mask to remain intact. But now, that mask is beginning to crack. You may begin to notice inconsistencies more clearly. Patterns that once seemed small will now feel significant. Reactions that once seemed normal will now reveal underlying intention. And as this awareness grows, you will begin to see the difference between genuine presence and strategic presence. Because there is a difference. Genuine presence supports without condition. It uplifts without comparison. It respects boundaries without resistance. It celebrates your progress without hidden discomfort. But strategic presence does something else. It observes. It measures. It adjusts its behavior depending on what benefits it most in the moment. And this is what Archangel Michael is revealing to you now. Not to create fear, not to create isolation, but to create clarity. Because once you understand how deception operates, it loses its ability to remain hidden. Once you recognize the mask, it no longer holds the same power. And once you stop viewing someone through the lens of familiarity alone, you begin to see them as they truly are in the present. This is where your strength lies. Not in confrontation, not in reaction, but in awareness. In seeing clearly without needing immediate validation from others. In trusting what your spirit reveals, even when it challenges what you once believed. Because the purpose of this revelation is not to push you into conflict, it is to guide you into alignment. Alignment with truth. Alignment with protection. Alignment with the path that is opening for you beyond this situation. Archangel Michael says this is a necessary step, because what you are moving toward cannot be carried alongside what is misaligned. And in order to move forward, you must first see clearly what is standing beside you, not as it once appeared, but as it truly is now. Type I see beyond the mask in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5555 is now activated. There is a deeper layer to everything you have been experiencing, and it is time for you to see it clearly. What you are facing is not just a matter of personality differences, misunderstandings, or emotional tension. It is not simply about human behavior operating on a surface level. There is something more at work here, something that operates beyond what the eyes can see and beyond what logic alone can explain. Archangel Michael speaks with authority in this moment, revealing that this situation is rooted in spiritual warfare. Not warfare in the way the world imagines it, but warfare that unfolds quietly, strategically, and often through people who may not even realize the role they are playing. This is why it has felt so confusing, because you have been trying to understand something spiritual through a purely natural lens. And when you do that, clarity becomes delayed, because spiritual interference does not always look dramatic. It does not always come with obvious signs. It often works through influence, through subtle shifts, through moments that seem small but carry deeper impact over time. And the person you have been shown is not necessarily aware of the full weight of what they are doing, but their actions are still being used within a larger dynamic. This is why Archangel Michael says, do not take this personally. Because the moment you reduce this to something purely personal, you limit your ability to respond correctly. You begin to react emotionally instead of positioning yourself spiritually. You begin to focus on proving a point instead of protecting your path. And that is exactly where confusion grows. But now, you are being called to see differently. You are being called to understand that what is happening around you is connected to your movement forward. Your growth has not gone unnoticed. Your progress has not been invisible. The direction your life is beginning to take carries weight, and whenever something carries weight, it attracts resistance. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are doing something right. Archangel Michael reveals that spiritual warfare often intensifies when you are approaching a shift, a transition, a new level of clarity, opportunity, or alignment. And the closer you get to that shift, the more subtle distractions begin to appear, not to destroy you, but to delay you. This is where the presence of someone with hidden intentions becomes significant, because they provide access to your thoughts, access to your emotions, access to your decisions. And when access exists, influence becomes possible. that influence does not have to be direct to be effective. It can be as simple as planting a seed of doubt at the right moment, creating hesitation where there was once confidence, redirecting your focus just enough to slow your progress. These are not large actions, but over time, they accumulate. This is how spiritual interference operates. Quietly, gradually, without immediate detection. And that is why Archangel Michael is stepping in now, to interrupt that pattern before it continues any further. You may have noticed how certain situations around this person seem to drain your energy more than usual, how your clarity becomes clouded after interacting with them, how your focus shifts away from what truly matters. These are not elegiac patterns. These are indicators of misalignment interacting with your energy. But here is what you must understand clearly. You are not powerless in this. You are not exposed without protection. You are not navigating this alone. Because the moment awareness enters, influence begins to lose its hold. The moment you recognize what is happening, you shift from being affected to being positioned. And this is where your strength begins to rise. Archangel Michael is not only revealing the situation, he is reinforcing your awareness so that you can stand differently within it. Not reactive, not defensive, but grounded, focused, aligned. Because in spiritual warfare, your posture matters more than your reaction. Your clarity matters more than your explanation. Your awareness matters more than confrontation. This is not about proving anything to anyone. This is about protecting what has been given to you. Protecting your direction. Protecting your peace. Protecting your ability to move forward without unnecessary interference. And as this understanding settles within you, something begins to shift. You stop looking at the situation through confusion, and you begin to see it through purpose. You begin to recognize why certain things felt the way they did, why certain patterns kept repeating, why your spirit kept signaling you to pay attention. Because you were not imagining it. You were perceiving it. And now, that perception is becoming clear. Archangel Michael says this is the turning point. The moment where you stop questioning what you feel and start trusting it fully. The moment where you stop engaging in what drains you and begin aligning with what strengthens you. The moment where you recognize that this is not just a situation, it is a spiritual crossing. And you are being guided through it with awareness, with protection, and with clarity that cannot be taken from you. So stand firm. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Because what is being revealed now is not meant to shake you. It is meant to position you for what comes next. Type "I stand in spiritual clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now activated. There is something unfolding behind the scenes right now. Something that has been forming quietly while you were focused on your own path, your own growth, your own responsibilities. And the reason it has remained hidden is not because it does not exist, but because it hath been operating in silence, in subtlety, in spaces where your attention was never meant to be drawn until this moment. Archangel Michael now brings this into the light with precision, not to alarm you, but to prepare you. He reveals that the individual you have been sensing is not simply present without purpose. There is intention behind their actions, even if those actions appear ordinary on the surface. There are conversations happening that you are not part of. There are thoughts being formed about you that have never been spoken directly to you. And there are subtle movements being made that are meant to position them in a way that benefits them, not you. This is not about dramatic schemes or obvious betrayal. It is far more calculated than that. Because what makes something effective in the shadows is not how loud it is, but how unnoticed it remains. You may begin to understand this now when you look at certain patterns. Moments where information about you seemed to travel in ways you could not trace. Situations where others reacted to you based on perceptions you never directly created. Small misunderstandings that seem to grow without clear origin. These are not sluchaikaki developments. These are often the result of quiet influence, words spoken in your absence, impressions shaped without your knowledge. Archangel Michael says this is where the plot exists, not in one large event, but in a series of small, intentional movements. A comment here, a suggestion there, a subtle shift in how you are perceived by others. None of these things appear harmful on their own, but when they are repeated, when they are layered over time, they begin to create a narrative. And that narrative can begin to affect how others see you, how situations unfold around you, and even how you begin to see yourself if you are not aware. This is why awareness is critical now. Because once you see the pattern, it loses its ability to operate unchecked. The person involved is not acting randomly. Their behavior is adaptive. They adjust based on what they observe. They respond based on what benefits the most in each moment. This is why at times they appear supportive, and at other times distant. At times engaged, and at other times neutral. This fluctuation is not sluchaikaki. It is intentional positioning. Archangel Michael reveals that part of their intention is to remain in your space while also influencing it from angles you cannot immediately detect. Not directly confronting you, not openly opposing you, but shaping things quietly in ways that allow them to maintain their presence without exposing their motive. This is what makes it difficult to recognize without spiritual awareness. Because everything appears normal on the surface, but beneath that surface, alignment is not present. You may begin to notice now that certain things do not add up the way they once did. That certain reactions from others feel influenced rather than natural. That certain outcomes seem slightly redirected from what you expected, without clear reason. These are the effects of something operating in the background. But here is what you must understand clearly. This does not mean you are being overpowered. It means you are being made aware before anything goes further. Archangel Michael is stepping in at the point where awareness changes everything. Because once you become aware of what is happening, the dynamic shifts. What once operated in silence can no longer move the same way. What once relied on your unawareness now loses its advantage. And what once seemed confusing now begins to make sense. You are not being called to react to this immediately. You are being called to observe it, to recognize the patterns, to see the consistency behind what once seemed sluchaikaki, to remain grounded while truth reveals itself fully. Because the truth does not need to be right. It needs to be seen clearly. And that clarity is forming now. Archangel Michael says that in the coming moments, you may receive confirmation in ways you did not expect. A conversation that reveals more than intended. A situation that exposes inconsistency. A moment where something becomes undeniable without you having to search for it. These are not coincidences. These are alignments of truth coming to the surface. This is why patience is important. Because when truth reveals itself naturally, it cannot be denied. And when it cannot be denied, you do not need to convince anyone, including yourself. You simply act from clarity. This is where your power lies. Not in confrontation, not in reaction, but in understanding. In seeing the full picture without being pulled into unnecessary conflict. In recognizing what is happening while remaining aligned with your own path. Because the purpose of this revelation is not to entangle you. It is to free you from what you did not fully see before. Archangel Michael is not only exposing what is hidden, he is positioning you ahead of it. So stay still. Stay aware. Stay grounded in what is becoming clear. Because what is unfolding behind the scenes is now moving toward the surface. And when it does, you will be ready. Type "I see the truth unfolding" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activated. There comes a point where what has been allowed to unfold quietly is no longer permitted to continue unchecked. A point where observation turns into intervention. A point where heaven itself steps into the situation, not with noise, not with chaos, but with authority so precise that everything begins to shift without needing explanation. This is that moment. Archangel Michael now reveals that you are no longer alone in simply observing what has been happening. The stage has moved beyond awareness. The line has been crossed where divine intervention becomes active. And when intervention begins, it does not always look dramatic, but its effects are undeniable. You may not see angels standing before you. You may not hear a voice speaking audibly. But what you will notice is change. Sudden, unexpected, unmistakable change in how things begin to unfold around you. Because when Archangel Michael steps in, alignment begins to correct itself. What was hidden begins to lose its cover. What was controlled begins to loosen its hold. What was operating quietly begins to reveal itself without being forced. This is how divine intervention works. It exposes without effort. Archangel Michael is not reacting to what is happening. He has already seen it. He has already understood every movement, every intention, every moment that led to this point. And now he is positioning you in such a way that nothing meant to mislead you can continue to do so. This is not about punishment for the other person. This is about protection for you. Because your path cannot carry hidden interference any further. And so, heaven moves. You may begin to notice that situations involving this person start to change without you initiating anything. Conversations may feel different. Your behavior may become inconsistent in ways that are more visible than before. They may reveal more than they intended, not because you questioned them, but because the alignment around them is no longer stable. This is not slujadikaki. This is intervention. Archangel Michael says that when divine light enters a situation, anything not aligned with truth begins to shift. It cannot remain in the same form. It cannot continue operating in the same way. It begins to unravel. Not all at once, but in stages that reveal just enough for you to understand what is happening. And this is why you must remain still. Because when heaven intervenes, your role is not to interfere with that process. Your role is to stay grounded, to stay aware, and to allow truth to surface naturally. You do not need to expose anything. You do not need to force clarity. You do not need to confront what is already being revealed. Because when truth is revealed by divine intervention, it carries a weight that no human explanation can match. It becomes undeniable. And when something becomes undeniable, it frees you from doubt completely. Archangel Michael is also strengthening something within you during this time, your ability to remain steady. Because as things begin to shift, there may be moments that test your reaction. Moments where you feel the urge to respond quickly, to question, to engage. But this is where your discipline matters. Because your power in this moment is not in reacting. It is in observing with clarity. It is in recognizing that what is unfolding is not slujadikaki, and therefore does not require a rushed response. Everything is being aligned for you to see clearly. And once you see clearly, your next steps will come naturally. There is also a deeper layer to this intervention. It is not only about revealing what is hidden, it is about restoring what was being affected. Your clarity is returning. Your focus is stabilizing. Your sense of direction is strengthening. Where there was confusion, there is now awareness. Where there was doubt, there is now understanding. This is not coincidence. This is correction. Archangel Michael is ensuring that nothing that was meant to distract you continues to influence you moving forward. He is reinforcing your path so that what belongs to you is not delayed any further by unseen interference. And as this unfolds, you may feel a shift within yourself as well. A sense of calm where there was once uncertainty. A sense of distance where there was once emotional attachment. A sense of clarity that replaces the need to question what you are feeling. This is the result of divine presence. Because when heaven steps in, confusion does not remain. Truth takes its place. And once truth is present, everything else adjusts around it. So trust what is unfolding. Trust what is being revealed. Trust the stillness you are being guided into. Because this is not a moment of loss. This is a moment of protection and motion. And you are being positioned exactly where you need to be. Type "I trust divine protection" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8888 is now activated. As this divine protection surrounds you, understand that this message is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to reach those who are still unaware, still walking in confusion, still questioning what their spirit is trying to show them. Every seed you sow into this mission becomes a light that reaches someone standing in darkness, someone who needs clarity just like you did in this moment. The word declares that those who sow generously will reap abundantly, and right now, this is fertile ground for awakening souls. I feel this deeply. I am aligning myself with heaven's work by supporting what brings truth to others. This is not a casual action. It is a prophetic response to what you have just received. Your giving becomes a channel through which divine messages continue to flow. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code is placed before you. Do not hesitate in this moment of alignment. Step forward now and watch how heaven responds to your obedience. Now that awareness has been activated, now that truth is beginning to surface, you are entering the most important phase of this entire moment, your response. Not their actions, not their intentions, not what has already been set in motion. Your response is what determines how the situation concludes in your life. Archangel Michael speaks with clarity and firmness here, because this is where many lose what they have just gained. Awareness without alignment leads back to confusion. Seeing the truth without acting in wisdom allows the same patterns to continue. And that is why this moment is critical, not because of what they are doing, but because of what you choose to do next. You are not being called to react emotionally. You are not being called to confront impulsively. You are not being called to prove anything to anyone. You are being called to move with precision. There is a difference. Because when you react, you give energy to the situation. But when you move with awareness, you remove yourself from its influence. Archangel Michael says this is a window, a narrow but powerful window where your alignment must be intentional. The next steps you take, the words you choose, the energy you allow around you, all of it carries weight. Not in a way that should create pressure, but in a way that should bring focus. Because this is not the time to operate on habit. This is the time to operate on clarity. You may feel the urge to address what you are beginning to understand, to ask questions, to seek confirmation directly. But understand this: truth that is already revealing itself does not need to be forced into the open. When you force it, you disrupt the natural exposure that is already in motion. Archangel Michael is guiding you to remain composed. Observe more than you speak. Listen more than you explain. Watch more than you react. Because in this state, you gather understanding without giving away your position. This is not about silence out of fear. This is silence out of strength. It is the ability to see clearly without immediately responding, allowing the full picture to form before you take action. And when that picture is complete, your decisions will not come from emotion. They will come from certainty. There is also something else you must protect during this time: your energy. You may begin to notice that certain interactions feel heavier now that you are aware. Conversations that once felt normal may now feel draining. Situations that once felt neutral may now feel misaligned. This is not SLUCHAIKAKI. This is your sensitivity increasing because your awareness has increased. And with that awareness comes responsibility. Responsibility to limit what you allow. Responsibility to step back where necessary. Responsibility to create space where there was once openness. This does not require explanation. It requires intention. Archangel Michael says you are allowed to shift your position without announcing it. You are allowed to protect your peace without justifying it. You are allowed to move differently now that you see differently. This is not avoidance. This is alignment. There is also a warning within this guidance. Do not allow guilt to influence your response. When you begin to create distance, when you begin to change how you engage, there may be subtle attempts to pull you back into the same dynamic. Questions, reactions, even emotional responses that make you feel like you are overreacting or misunderstanding the situation. This is where you must stand firm. Because guilt is often used to maintain access. And access is what allowed this situation to exist in the first place. Archangel Michael is reminding you that protecting yourself is not wrong. It is necessary. It is not selfish. It is wise. And in this moment, wisdom is your greatest protection. You are also being guided to stay grounded in your own direction. Do not become consumed by trying to understand every detail of what has been happening. You do not need every answer to move forward. You only need enough clarity to recognize what is aligned and what is not. And that clarity is already forming. So keep your focus on your path. Keep your attention on what you are building, what you are moving toward, what you are stepping into. Because the more aligned you remain with your direction, the less influence anything misaligned will have over you. This is how you move through this moment successfully. Not by engaging in conflict, not by trying to control the outcome, but by staying aligned with truth and allowing everything else to adjust around that alignment. Archangel Michael says this is your moment to rise into a higher level of awareness, not just seeing what is happening, but responding in a way that reflects your growth. And when you do that, the situation will resolve itself without you having to force it. Because what is not aligned cannot remain connected to what is. So move carefully. Move intentionally. Move with clarity. Because what you do now determines how smoothly you transition into what comes next. And you are closer than you think. Type "I move with wisdom" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now activated. There comes a moment in every divine alignment where closeness is no longer safe, where familiarity is no longer beneficial, where presence itself begins to interfere with purpose. And when that moment arrives, distance is not rejection, it is protection. This is where many struggle, because distance feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural. It feels like loss. But Archangel Michael is revealing something deeper. What feels like loss in the moment is often preservation for what is ahead. You have already begun to feel this shift within you. A quiet pull to step back. A subtle resistance to engage the way you once did. A growing awareness that certain conversations, certain interactions, certain connections no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. This is not sluchikaki. This is your spirit guiding you toward separation, not out of fear, but out of necessity. Archangel Michael says that elevation requires space, because you cannot rise while remaining entangled in what is pulling you in a different direction. You cannot move forward while maintaining the same level of access for those who are not aligned with your path. And you cannot fully step into clarity while remaining in environments that introduce confusion. This is why distance becomes essential, not as a reaction, not as punishment, but as alignment. You may notice that as your awareness has increased, your tolerance has changed. What you once overlooked now feels significant. What you once accepted now feels misaligned. What you once engaged with freely now requires consideration. This is not you becoming distant from others. It is you becoming closer to truth. And truth often requires separation from what no longer matches it. Archangel Michael is guiding you into a position where your environment begins to reflect your clarity, where the people around you are not sources of confusion, but extensions of alignment. But in order for that to happen, you must first create space for it, and space requires distance. This does not mean dramatic endings or unnecessary confrontation. It does not mean explaining everything you have come to understand. It means quiet repositioning. It means adjusting your presence without needing to justify it. It means reducing access where access has been misused. Because access is powerful. Who you allow close to you influences how you think, how you feel, how you move. And when someone within that space is not aligned, their presence creates subtle interference that affects your direction more than you may realize. This is why Archangel Michael says distance is not optional. It is necessary for elevation. You may feel resistance as you begin to create this distance, not only from the other person, but from within yourself. Thoughts that question whether you are overreacting. Feelings that make you wonder if you should maintain things as they were. A sense of discomfort that comes from changing a dynamic that once felt familiar. But understand this, familiar does not always mean aligned, and comfort does not always mean correct. This is where your discipline matters, because the moment you begin to step back, the dynamic will shift. You may notice changes in how the other person responds, increased attempts to engage, subtle questioning, even emotional reactions that attempt to pull you back into the same level of closeness. This is not sluchikaki. This is the natural response when access begins to change. But Archangel Michael says you must remain steady, not reactive, not defensive, simply consistent in your decision. Because consistency is what establishes new boundaries, and boundaries are what protect your elevation. You are not required to explain your growth to those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. You are not required to maintain closeness simply because it existed before. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to reposition. You are allowed to choose alignment over familiarity. This is where your strength is tested, not in recognizing the truth, but in acting on it. And as you begin to create this distance, something powerful will happen. Your clarity will deepen. Your energy will stabilize. Your focus will return to what truly matters. The interference that once felt subtle will begin to fade, not because it no longer exists, but because it no longer has access to you. This is the purpose of separation, not isolation, not loneliness, but protection. Protection of your peace, protection of your duerian, protection of what you are moving toward. Archangel Michael is not removing something from you. He is clearing the path ahead of you. Because what is coming next requires a level of alignment that cannot coexist with what hath been revealed. To trust the distance. Trust the shift. Trust the quiet repositioning you are being guided into. Because this is not the end of something valuable. This is the beginning of something aligned. And as you step into that alignment, you will understand why this separation was necessary. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated. Now you are standing at a point where everything begins to turn. Not slowly, not uncertainly, but decisively. Because once truth is revealed, once awareness is activated, and once you begin to move in alignment, something powerful begins to take place behind the scenes. What once worked against you begins to lose its influence. What once created confusion begins to clear. And what once seemed like a quiet disadvantage begins to reverse in ways you did not expect. Archangel Michael speaks now not just as a protector, but as a restorer. He reveals that nothing you have experienced in this situation has been wasted. Every moment of discomfort, every subtle sign you questioned, every instance where something felt off, these were not losses. They were signals preparing you for this exact moment of clarity. And now that clarity is here, restoration begins. You may not see it immediately in full form, but you will begin to feel it. A shift within yourself first. A sense of grounding where there was once uncertainty. A return of confidence where there was once hesitation. A renewed focus that no longer drifts toward what is misaligned. This internal shift is the first sign of reversal. Because everything begins within you before it reflects around you. Archangel Michael says that what was meant to create doubt in you will now strengthen your discernment. What was meant to slow your progress will now sharpen your direction. What was meant to quietly influence your path will now be removed from having any effect at all. This is the nature of divine reversal. It does not simply stop what was happening. It transforms its impact. Where there was confusion, there is now clarity. Where there was distraction, there is now focus. Where there was subtle interference, there is now protection. And as this continues, you will begin to notice external shifts as well. Situations that once felt uncertain will begin to stabilize. Opportunities that seemed delayed will begin to move forward. Connections that are truly aligned will become clearer, while those that are not will continue to fade without effort. This is not SLUCHEA IKAKI. This is restoration aligning itself with your awareness. Archangel Michael reveals something important here. What was meant for harm could only operate while it remained hidden. Once it is exposed, even partially, it loses its ability to function the same way. And because you are now aware, its influence has already been reduced. This is why you may feel a sense of release, even before everything fully resolves. Because part of the situation has already ended the moment you saw it clearly. And now, what remains is the unfolding of that clarity into your reality. There is also something being returned to you in this moment, your trust in yourself. The trust you may have questioned when you doubted your own intuition. The trust you set aside when you chose to ignore what you felt. That trust is being restored, not just as a feeling but as a foundation. Because moving forward, you will not operate the same way. You will listen sooner. You will recognize patterns faster. You will act with clarity instead of hesitation. And this is part of the restoration as well. Archangel Michael says that nothing aligned with your path has been taken from you. What had been removed or revealed was never meant to move forward with you in the first place. And once you understand this, you no longer see the situation as a loss. You see it as a necessary correction, a redirection, a clearing of space for what truly belongs. Because what belongs to you does not need to be protected from you. It aligns with you. It supports you. It moves with you, not against you. And now, as this reversal continues, you are stepping into a position where your environment begins to reflect that alignment more clearly, where your peace is not interrupted by hidden intentions, where your direction is not influenced by subtle interference, where your growth is supported, not quietly resisted. This is where you are being positioned, not in reaction to what happened, but in preparation for what is coming next. And what is coming next requires clarity. It requires focus. It requires a level of awareness that you now carry. So do not look back at this situation with regret. Do not question why it happened. Understand that it served its purpose by bringing you to this point of awakening. Because without it, you would not see what you see now. You would not move how you are about to move. And you would not be as aligned as you are becoming. Archangel Michael says the reversal has already begun. What was meant to confuse you has clarified you. What was meant to delay you has positioned you. What was meant to interfere with your path has now been removed from it. And from this point forward, you move differently. With awareness, with strength, with clarity that cannot be taken from you again. Type "I receive my restoration" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1112 is now activated. This is the moment where everything comes together. Not as a coincidence, not as a random ending, but as a divine conclusion to everything that has been revealed to you. Because now, you are no longer in the place of questioning. You are no longer in the place of confusion. You are standing in clarity. And when clarity arrives, it brings with it a decision. Archangel Michael speaks now with unmistakable authority, because this is not just guidance anymore. This is a call. A call to choose what you will do with what you now know. A call to decide how you will move forward with the awareness that hath been placed in your spirit. You cannot return to unawareness. You cannot pretend you did not feel what you felt. You cannot ignore what has been shown to you. Because once truth enters, it changes everything. And now, you are standing at a threshold between what was and what will be. A threshold between remaining in what felt familiar and stepping into what is aligned. A threshold where your next step determines your direction moving forward. Archangel Michael says this clearly. The warning has been given, but the choice is yours. You have been shown that someone near you is not aligned. You have been guided to see the signs, to recognize the patterns, to understand the deeper nature of what has been unfolding. You have been positioned with awareness, with protection, with clarity that many do not receive until much later. And now, the question becomes, what will you do with it? Will you step fully into alignment, even if it feels uncomfortable at first? Will you trust your discernment, even when it challenges what you once believed? Will you protect your peace, even if it means creating distance where closeness once existed? This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because delays in alignment only extend what has already been revealed. Archangel Michael is not asking you to move in fear. He is asking you to move in truth. To stand in the clarity you have received and allow it to guide your actions without hesitation. To trust that what is being removed or distanced from you is not being taken. It is being cleared. Cleared so that what truly belongs can take its place. There is also a blessing attached to this moment. Because every time you choose alignment over confusion, every time you choose clarity over comfort, every time you choose truth over familiarity, something opens for you. Doors that were once delayed begin to move. Paths that were once unclear begin to reveal themselves. Peace that once felt interrupted becomes steady and unshaken. This is the reward of alignment. And Archangel Michael says it is already waiting for you. But it requires your decision. A decision not spoken in words, but demonstrated through your actions. Through how you move, how you respond, how you choose to protect what you now understand. This is where your transformation completes. Not in what was revealed, but in what you choose to do with it. Because knowledge without action keeps you where you are. But awareness with alignment moves you forward. And you are meant to move forward. You are meant to step into a space where your environment reflects your clarity, where your connections reflect your truth, where your path is no longer influenced by what was hidden, but guided by what is revealed. This is your moment to step into that fully. So stand firm. Stay aligned. Trust what has been shown to you. Because you are not walking away from something, you are walking into something greater. And as you take that step, know this: you are protected. You are guided. You are positioned exactly where you need to be. And nothing that is not aligned with your path will be allowed to move forward with you. This is your confirmation. This is your final warning. And this is your blessing. Type "I choose truth and alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated. As you stand in this moment of decision, understand that your action does not end with you. It echoes into the lives of others who are still searching for clarity, still waiting for their own awakening. Every seed you release into this mission becomes a river of truth flowing into souls that are lost in confusion. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you," not as distant scripture, but as a living promise speaking directly into your life right now. I feel this deeply within. I am answering the call by sowing into what sets captives free. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic act of alignment that unlocks greater purpose in your life. As you give, heaven multiplies, and what you release today returns to you in ways you cannot yet see. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code stands ready before you. Do not delay this moment of obedience. Step forward now, and watch how God responds to your faith.